Every lesson is a lyric in the universal song. Oh, the lessons of the journey, I'll weave them in my song.
Welcome back to Lessons of the Journey with Coach Jen and Coach Nicole. Or if you're joining us for the first time, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to our Coaches Picks episodes, where Jen and I revisit conversations that stand out to us as game changers.
Hey, Jen here. Before we dive back into this episode, I want to take a moment to tell you why I chose to revisit this one. Of all of the conversations Nicole and I've had on this podcast, this one still hits the deepest for me. Grief is universal, but it's also one of the most misunderstood and underserved parts of our human experience. We recorded this episode with raw hearts, open minds, and a lot of personal history from behind this mic. And if I could change anything, honestly, I wouldn't. And that's not because it's perfect, but because it's real. We didn't come in with scripts or polished answers. We showed up messy, human, and honest. And that's exactly the space grief lives in. So here's what I would encourage you to listen for in this episode. Grief isn't linear, and there's really no right way to do it. You are allowed to grieve anything that mattered to you. Feelings, in fact, are not problems to fix. They're messengers. They're trying to tell us something. Grief doesn't just show up when somebody dies. It shows up when the life you imagined slips away. That job, that version of you, that dream, maybe that relationship, they all counted. You don't have to earn your grief. Your pain is valid, even if no one else sees it. And maybe most importantly, you're not broken. You're becoming. And becoming often looks like breaking first. My favorite line from Nicole in this episode, as she reminds us, grief demands presence, not productivity. We often try to keep ourselves busy to avoid that. And you have permission to be a mess. One of the most powerful takeaways is the idea that grief is not something to, quote, get over. It becomes a part of your life story. We encourage you to give yourself grace, drop the shame, and let the healing happen in waves. This episode isn't about fixing anything. It's about remembering that you're allowed to feel, to fall apart, and to take your time putting the pieces back together. So thanks for being brave enough to press play today, and let's go back there together.
Today we are talking about grief. Coach Jen, I think we need to define grief. Yeah, take a deep breath first.
As dictionary.com defines it, keen mental suffering or distress over affliction or loss, sharp sorrow, painful regret. Definition number 2, a cause or occasion of keen distress or sorrow. How do you feel about that definition, Nicole?
I don't like the word keen because keen to me is positive, like, oh, I'm keen on this. I'm not really keen on grief.
Well, let's define it so we're all on the same page. It's an adjective, finely sharpened as an edge, so shaped as to cut or pierce substances readily. Sharp, piercing, or biting.
I guess it does work.
And isn't that weird? I've not been using keen like that at all. Number 3 on the list is characterized by strength and distinctness of perception. So that's how we've been using keen. I'm keen on, meaning I like, characterized by strength and distinctness. That's how we've all been using it. I've not understood keen to mean the first 2. In that case, it does make sense. Sharp, piercing, biting. Interesting.
I would agree with that. And I think that's very strange because I don't think of it that way. I don't even know if the third definition works for me because I think, like you said, I'm keen on that. Well, that's not super strong. It's not, I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, maybe we've been using it wrong our whole lives.
Yeah, Jen, you can go through the whole dictionary and figure out all the words we've been using wrong because I have a feeling there's a whole lot of them.
A whole bunch of them. Well, if you've experienced grief, you have a definition in your mind and heart what grief is. I know that we've both experienced it. I know that most of the world has experienced it, but here you and I are talking about this particular thing. Would you like to share your story?
Okay, she's going to make me go first. I think what we're both going to do is talk about our biggest grief. You know how trauma is defined as your big T's and your little T's? You have your big traumas and you have your little traumas. I think grief is kind of the same way. What are our big G's? My biggest G happened 2 years and a few months ago, and it was when I lost my father. We both know this is not going to be an easy conversation.
I didn't have a box of tissues, so I have a roll of toilet paper ready. Just so everybody's aware, my roll of toilet paper is locked and loaded.
Oh my gosh. I feel myself already getting warm having this conversation. So my father passed away a little over 2 years ago. And it's one thing to say you lost a parent. My father was truly my best friend other than my husband. He's literally the reason I live the life I live right now because of his relationship with my children. He was the example for what I want to be for my grandchildren. That's why we live on property with them, because he was so close. They were always at the baseball games. We would have Friday night dinners together. He would watch my kids all the time. He was a lifeline for them along with us. About 75% of our vacations when my kids were younger were with the six of us. So that would be me, my husband, my two boys, Grandpa and Pop-Pop. So Pop-Pop is my biological father. He is the one that passed away. Grandpa and Pop-Pop were married for 43 years. So not only did I have the loss of a father, the loss of a confidant for my husband, because they were very close, a grandparent to my children, I also now have a stepfather who's grieving a 43-year relationship. So a lot of pieces there. I really didn't know much about grief. Couldn't even have told you the stages of grief. But I will tell you, I distinctly remember saying to my husband, I'm not grieving because I wasn't doing what I call the pretty grieving. And by the way, pretty grieving is when you're crying. And it could be ugly crying. It doesn't matter. It's still pretty grieving. Pull out the tissue. I'm pretty grieving now. And that's how I am now. But in the beginning, I was not. And I said to my husband, I'm not grieving. He goes, oh, yes, you are. Shit, what am I doing? How am I grieving? And he goes, you're extra controlling. So bossy bitch Nicole was like extra bossy, extra in charge, extra running things. And that's how I was functioning. And it was such an ugly way to grieve because it hurt everybody around me. And it was very hard for me to go, okay, I have to actually process all of this. I even got to the point, and it's really hard to admit or say this, that I was angry at my father for all the things he didn't do while he was alive. Here's a man that showed up so heavily for his family, and I was mad for the things he hadn't done. And it was like, what am I doing here? This isn't serving anyone. I actually said, okay, I got to learn how to grieve. And I went and I found a workbook that I could go through and intentionally grieve. And I remember I was watching this TV show. I can't even remember what it's called. It's a comedy. It's based in Australia. And this comedian, she's hilarious. She has this show and she ends up with this grief counselor at the end when this man is dying and they're all in the room together and the daughters are there. This is such a distinct memory watching this for me because the man passes right in the middle of the scene and the one daughter jumps into action. And the grief counselor goes, stop, just stand here, just feel it. And I never did that because I was someone who jumped into action and it wasn't good for me. I didn't take that time. And that was really hard. And I think that's kind of why I was able to avoid it for so long and ugly grief instead of pretty grieve like I do now, which is this. But I did that for a long time. I ugly grieved because I never stopped. I just thought if I just keep controlling everything and keep running everything, then I don't have to think about this. I'm going to avoid it. And I really had myself convinced that I was the person who jumped over that nasty grief hole. And man, when that sucker brought me back down to life, it was like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad. So I've been controlling everyone in my family, trying to suppress these feelings, this pain of losing this rock of my family, who was, by the way, the first person I'd ever lost in my life that was this close to me. I just didn't know how to deal with it. You know, talking about what school doesn't prepare you for, we don't learn how to grieve. We don't learn how to feel, let alone feel grief, which is probably the most difficult of the emotions to deal with. You know, I just listened to a podcast the other day, very interesting. It was talking about how those people that can feel the bigger range of positive and negative emotions actually have more fulfilling lives. And it was really interesting. But I remember watching Brene Brown talk about emotions, and I went through a lot of them, things that I had never felt before when I first heard that my father had died. I've had this conversation with my husband before because his father passed as well. And he was also very close to his father. This is like 16 years ago. His father was very sick for a while. His sister was like, I feel bad for you. Your father died so suddenly, you never got to say goodbye. And I said, yeah, but I can't imagine watching someone you love suffer either. There's no pretty way. There's no good way. It sucks either way. But I had a conversation with my dad about 5 years before he died. He had gone into the hospital for something. And he said to me, I want you to know that if I passed away, I'd be okay. I've lived an amazing life and I've loved the life I lived. I just want to make sure you'll take care of Davy, my stepfather. And I was like, no, you need to worry about if we'll take care of you if Davy goes, because we love him more than you. No, just kidding. I did tell him that. We used to joke a lot. So that was a comfort 5 years later when he passed. I know he lived a life he wanted, and he lived into his 70s. Although that's not super long. It was a great life, and he lived it on his terms. That's my story. There's lots more details, but I think that kind of covers the general gist of it and gets our tears going.
We're joking earlier. We got ready for the day like we weren't going to be crying. I knew you when your father passed away, and I could feel how heavy it was. And I say that like any loss wouldn't be heavy. I could tell we were fresh friends, and I could tell through the loss, the relationship that you and your father had. And it was so evident. And I'm so sorry for your loss there.
Thank you.
I have not lost a parent yet. I don't know that I will handle it as well as you.
I don't know. I got ugly grieving down pretty well.
I don't know that even this part is pretty, because it only shows the exterior version of all of the things that are happening inside that are pushing it out. Just the thought that I'm going to lose one of my parents one day, just beyond. And I don't even know that I have the best friend relationship that you did with your dad. Just the idea that the support, and that we're just so blessed to have had that doesn't take away the pain. And so thank you.
And I do want to say one more thing. When they always say you miss the little things when it comes to losing people. Luckily, I have a son who's big and bulky like my father was, because my dad was one of those people that could hug you and just all your pieces would go back together, even if you were broken. And I miss that so much. My oldest son, I told him, you have to hug me all the time now, because you have to do what Pop-Up did for me. And you have to put mommy back together again. So he does, but I miss that the most. I just miss his hugs. It's those little things. Enough about me, Jen.
I'm like, let me ask you all the questions so we don't have to come this way.
So we don't have to go your direction. And yet we are going to go your direction.
Sitting here with my toilet paper roll, trying to separate the snot rag side from the tear side. So it's this side is the nose, this side is the eyes.
My gosh, I just have snot in my eyes. It's okay. It's okay.
I have not yet lost a parent, and I will not function well. I will need all of the help just for future reference. I did lose grandparents, and I did have my one favorite grandmother. My parents always said, like, old people are supposed to die, and so it doesn't make it any better. That's kind of like if you get a long life. In regard to my story here, I was engaged. I was with a man here in Hawaii for 5 years. We dated. His name was Elvis, and I met him on a boat the first 2 months that I lived here in Hawaii. He was a boat captain. And I remember going, I could never date an Elvis, because my dad was a singer and my dad grew up singing Elvis. I was like, that would just be strange and weird. Whose name is Elvis anyway? So of course we ended up together. We dated for 4 years, and he proposed in a flash mob proposal. He orchestrated behind my back for months with all of our friends, our ohana here, this flash mob proposal. It was down at the Sheraton. I had no idea that they were doing this. We took a night at the Sheraton, and I thought, oh, we're just having a staycation. It was May. And he takes me out to the point overlooking the ocean, and really the orchestration that this man, he was the life of the town. He had a personality bigger than most people I know, and he was everybody's best friend. So people would have jumped at the opportunity to help him put this together. It's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. It was fantastical. Elvis and Jen proposal, EJFM. He proposes to me in May of 2016, and we go through the year planning our wedding. It would be 1 year later, and 28 days before our wedding, on April 28th, he was riding his motorcycle home after work, and he was hit. And the next morning, he passed. It was 17 hours in the hospital overnight, and I was very much in the control. You and I are very similar in that I went, no, because this isn't happening, because I am getting married in 28 days, and this dude is trying to steal my thunder. Do you know how good I'm gonna look in my wedding dress? You're gonna marry me in a full body cast? Like, what are you doing, dude? Why? Like, and the whole time in the hospital, I'm not at all thinking that this is it, because it wasn't in the plans. It wasn't part of what I knew was going to happen. That night, he used 4 bodies worth of blood because pelvis cracked open, and had he survived, he would have lost a leg. And it was a very, very bad accident. So the next morning, he passed. And I didn't know what the doctor was saying as he was saying it. I think that they need translators in hospitals. I think the doctor was trying to tell me that he wasn't going to make it, but I wasn't processing that because it wasn't in the plan. It wasn't part of what I've created. And then he died. One of our best friends, she was a nurse at the hospital at the time. She was in the room with me as they were asking me, what do you want us to do? And I'm looking at them like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do I want you to do? Fix him, save him. Like, they meant his heart stopped several times, and we've brought him back. But ultimately, if he does make it, he won't be there. And I knew we were together for 5 years, and I knew that he wouldn't want that kind of life. He was a boat captain. He was on the water every day. He dove. He rode his motorcycle. That wouldn't have been any part of what he wanted. Not even married. No family there. They're asking me, what do you want to do? And my friend, who knew what they were asking, had to help me understand that he had to be done that morning. And I'm thankful for her presence there. My dad was in the room that night too. I wouldn't have known what they meant if she wasn't there telling me what they were actually saying, and we had to let him go. It was a very interesting thing because I told you how well liked he was. There was over 100 people in and out of the hospital that night. And they knew that he was needing so much blood, and they were there like, here, take my blood. We're like, it doesn't work like that. But 4 bodies worth over the course of that 17 hours as they pumped it through him. When I came out, the halls were lined with Ohana. And I just broke down. I looked at faces and I just crumbled in the hallway. And then it was the strangest thing. It was like, now what? And I just got in a car and somebody drove me home. And I thought my life was over. Because what do you do next? I was 35 years old. He was 42. We were planning a family, like immediately. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't sleep because I slept next to him for 5 years. So how do you sleep when your bed's empty? My mom slept with me. She flew over from California immediately. She slept with me. The nightmares and the numbness. I just remember those things. I remember so much love from the community, everybody. The letters, the cards, the food. Just the showering of love from everybody who loved, I say him, I say everybody who loved us, but really everybody who loved him. I was blessed in that I had so many people just on top of me all at once, carrying me through this. If I didn't have that, I would not have gotten out of bed. There was my mom several days later saying, you have to get up. You have to take steps outside. I'd be like, I can't move. I can't carry my body outside. I know. You just come with me. Let me hold you. You have to take steps outside. So in my slippers and my pajamas and go take 5 steps. And then I would get angry with her. Like, am I done? Can I be done? The ugly part. I was so shitty with so many people around me who were just trying to help. And I'm so thankful that none of them took that personally. I eventually could get out of bed, of course. But the ugly part, I didn't handle it well. I immediately understood that control is an illusion because I had lived my life as that control freak. When he died, I literally have no control over anything. It's made up. It's not real. So I went the opposite way, actually, with the control version. I went, whatever, what's it matter? I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have a family. I've lost everything. Not only was I grieving him, the loss of him, I was grieving the family that we were never going to have, the life that we had talked about. We had just bought a house the year before. I couldn't live in it anymore. I couldn't see our bed. I couldn't go home. I moved back in with my dad and I numbed out. I became like a functioning alcoholic. I started smoking a bunch of weed. I just numbed out. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to feel anything. That was the ugly part for me. It was almost a year and a half before another horrific event really kind of shook me back into reality. It was almost like the universe was saying, hey, we need you back. We have something for you. It was a solid year and a half. And because I was in the fuck control, it doesn't matter. Because what's it matter? What's it all for? The money I'm making, it doesn't matter. The life I was living, it doesn't matter. I get none of what I wanted. And I just went straight to, I'm just going to numb out. And you know what? I convinced myself that that would have been okay because everybody would have understood. It would have been fine for me to just be a fuck up for the rest of my life. And that would have been my story. And everybody would have been like, yeah, I get it. That's all right. And clearly that didn't happen. Here I am. It was a punch in the gut. That's for sure. And I'll tell you, Nicole, just like what you're talking about, you're mad at your dad. The roughest conversations I've ever had have been with a dead person. Right? Oh boy. Now the pretty part, this was 2017. So many years later, I find myself talking to him. Ah, you were right on that one. That's the pretty part of it. You don't ever get over things like this. There's not a get over it. You don't go, oh, I've passed that. You somehow learn how to live with grief. It stays with you forever, I think, in different stages. And we'll talk about the stages. Yeah, that's my story. That was my big G in my life. You know, I miss his voice. I miss his laugh. It's a different kind of rough situation. You'll only ever have one dad. Like I have kids now and I'm with their dad. And even moving through the idea that people will still say, Elvis was the love of your life. And I go, this is very strange. Like I have kids now. I didn't know you could have a different kind of love of your life. And I didn't know I would have kids. Moving with and through that is a very interesting scenario as well. And it's a small town. People still remember him. I was just out on a boat from the company that he worked with. Some of those folks still remember me. The rush of grief that came through again, being in that space at that time with people who only knew me with him, that was interesting too. But all the moving process, it's been, 7 years now.
That's
And it still very much is here. I will cry about it forever.
There's so many layers. When you talk about what you went through, there's so many layers. It's not just you lost someone. You lost someone that was young, which is so difficult. You lost someone and had to make decisions for them living, which is so heavy, honey. I'm sorry you had to do that.
Thank you.
No one should have to do that ever. That's rough.
I remember talking to my mom laying in bed and I go, Mom, you've lost a parent. You know, how do you do this? How am I supposed to do this? And she goes, honey, it's not the same.
No.
But it's never the same. No grief is the same. And that's when she said, you know, old people are supposed to die. It doesn't mean that I don't miss my mom. It's heavy on me all the time. And like what you just said, this isn't supposed to happen. And then she said, because my mom is all of the things, she said, the only thing I could imagine that might be worse is if you lost a child.
Yeah.
And of course, I wasn't there yet in my life. And oddly enough, I was on a plane to California months later. I think I went to my mom's house for Christmas that year. And on the way back, I met a couple. I was sitting next to them and I didn't know how to do something electronic. And I asked the girl next to me and she was like, oh, I don't know, ask my husband. And we started talking and she, in fact, lost her child on this island, 6 months, sudden infant death. And right then and there, as I was on my, I'm processing all of this, that hit me. And I remembered what my mom said. I went, okay, perspective. And that doesn't take away mine.
Mm-mm.
And there's all these ands. And it's all different and it's all awful. There's no right way. That's what I remembered. I love that you went through a journal. People offered so much to me. I had a stack. There were 17 books next to my bed, 17 grief books. And I know 17 because I would look at them all the time. Every once in a while, I would get the guts to be like, okay, I'm going to try to process this. I would pick one of the books out of the stack. I would judge a book by its cover because that's where I was at. I would decide to read that one. I swear to you, 17 books. I would open it. I would read the introduction to the foreword. And in sentence 1, they all said the same thing in a different way. I threw them. I threw books across the room. My kids do that now, and I'm like, we don't treat books that way. I threw them. I was angry. You're all the same. How? All of them. I didn't make it past the first page. Most of them, I didn't make it past the first paragraph. That was the angry phase for me. I was just so angry that nobody could offer me any help in what to do next. But I will tell you, this is my personality. This is the book that spoke to me. It's called Option B. Have you ever heard of it? Sheryl Sandberg.
I have not.
This is what it said to me. I can summarize it in one sentence. Listen, option A is no longer available. You wish it was. You didn't plan on it not being. You did plan on option A being option A forever, and it is no longer. So now you have option B. What does option B look like? That's really up to you. Option A is no longer. Get that through your head. And now it's not as harsh. Option A is no longer available. That spoke to me. I guess I read it at the time that my brain was ready to be like, okay, I think that I'm going to accept that although I had planned and I understand that control is an illusion now what? What is option B or C? What is that? So that was the one book that I read most of. And that was the one thing that helped me kind of move. She lost her husband. She had 2 children with him. He was working out in a hotel gym on like a treadmill, and I think he had a heart attack. That was her perspective. I think she was the CFO of Facebook at the time. How do you do life after this? So that one book did it for me. Outside of your workbook, was there a book for you?
There really wasn't a book for me. It was mostly the workbook, and it was very intentional because I kept searching online. How am I supposed to be grieving? I knew that what I was doing wasn't healthy. I think you brought up a really good point. It has to be the right timing for what you're going through. I always go to the Brene Brown, we talk about her so much, the shame ranking. It's the same with the pain ranking. Let's not rank the pain. We're all in pain. Sometimes you're just at a point where you're just not open to seeing anything or hearing anything because it's too heavy, and you have to get past that stage before you can go, okay, now I'm open to it. Now I do wish I had that person in the room to say, you just found out your father died, breathe, live through this pain right now in this moment, because this has to be processed. And that never was.
Yeah, I think you and I are similar in that because we're doers, we're achievers.
Yes.
Doing and
Right.
staying busy is a trauma response. That's of course what we want to jump to because that's what's gotten us everywhere. Yeah, I see that. I think that I ended up doing that in a different way. I found myself being more empathetic towards other people's grief, which was a new thing for me. People would sit and go, it's not the same, but when I lost my sister, and I found myself going, whoa, my gosh, that's awful. When I learned that there really is no comparison in grief. People would want to disqualify their grief comparing it to mine in some way, shape, or form. And I found myself going, stop, let's all sit here with this. But then that allowed me to transfer to feeling empathetic for them. And then I didn't have to feel it. I would sit with them. And that, by the way, is also why I chose not to go to any grief groups. Those were offered to me very kindly. And I knew that if I would go to those groups, I would not process my own trauma. I would take on others and feel for them so that I didn't have to feel my own. That was one decision that I made very aware of who I am, because in theory, these groups are supposed to help. They're by trained individuals that help you move through. I just knew that that wasn't going to serve me as an individual because it would allow me to disassociate from my own grief.
I can't help but wonder, Jen, if you had gone, if they wouldn't have allowed you to do that, because they can probably see that coming, the trained professionals.
Yeah, I'm sure they could. In my recovering control freak era, I was like, no, I know better. That's not going to work for me.
I was the opposite. I actually sought out groups after about 1.5 years when I realized I need to process and deal with this. I had put together a bunch of slides of my father to play at his celebration of life. And anytime I was on a plane, I would put headphones on, watch the video, and just cry. I was like, okay, I'm processing, but it wasn't enough. Maybe I need to talk about this. I couldn't find any grief groups where I'm at, which was really unfortunate because I'm outside of a city by about 1.5 hours. And there just wasn't anything. And that's when I found the workbook online. And I'm not through that entire workbook. I do it very slowly. One of the things they talk about, and I think you and I want to discuss this too, is when grief is brought up, it's really referenced to death. And yet this grief book lists all the things you can grieve. And there are so many things we can grieve. We often don't think of it as grieving. I think that's important to note, that I can always find somebody with a worse situation than me. But that doesn't mean I'm not feeling the pain. I can find somebody with a worse situation than you. It doesn't mean you're not feeling the pain. We're all feeling the pain of grief, whether it's big G's or little G's, we're feeling it. So let's deal with it.
I also want to point out that neither myself or Nicole are specific grief counselors or grief coaches. We are only speaking about what we've learned in our time. And hopefully somebody can draw a parallel to an experience and understand that A, you're not alone, that B, there's really no particular one way of going through it, and C, when you're able to be as healthy as possible. And you're right, Nicole, in that society has created this idea that we have immediate gratification. You don't have to sit in pain for long. You figure it out and you move on. And grief is the outlier in all of that. It is so important to sit with and feel the depths of it. What I did, I masked it with alcohol and drugs. I didn't want to feel it. But just because I masked it didn't mean that it went away. It just shoved it further down, and it made it harder to get to when I was ready to go there. I recognize that we all have coping mechanisms, and sometimes coping mechanisms begin in a very tough process, like losing someone or something. The big thing that I've learned is it's not going to go away. And the longer you take to deal with it, almost the harder it is to begin. And the long drawn out process of learning how to live with it is very nuanced. So the idea that you shouldn't feel the pain, take a pill for this, or knock yourself out with that, it doesn't serve this process.
I have a friend, and she's a very intelligent woman, and she has somebody in her life that is going through the loss of someone. And she said to him, basically the concept was, she's still here, she's everywhere, but you won't see her or recognize that until you get through what you're going through right now. So get on with it, because you're not dealing with it. That is wonderful, because that is the truth. You don't realize how much they're still there if all you're feeling is the pain. I used to have this saying, and it was before my father passed, and I really tried to think about it a lot after he passed. Whenever somebody lost someone or even an animal, I said, I look forward to the day when your joy of having had that person, animal in your life is stronger than the pain you currently feel. I still think that is a really important thing, because at some point we go, I was lucky to have had that in my life. I was lucky to have had that experience. It doesn't mean the pain goes away. Like you were saying earlier, you still have the pain. It's just not the overwhelming emotion. It's interesting how my anger was so strong with my father, yet now I'm feeling that gratitude really showing up. I'm now starting to process that through. And it's been over 2 years. You can't put a timeline on these things. You really can't. It takes what it takes, and you're going to go through what you're going to go through. It's really important to have, like you said, the people that will support you, the people that will be there for you to make you get up and walk outside 10 steps if that's what it takes to make it out of the depression stage. One thing I do want to bring up is, please stop saying to people that are in grief anything relating to, you're so resilient, you're so strong.
Yeah. Shut up.
Because all you're saying is, thanks for not breaking down in front of me. Thanks for not showing me your emotions, which is so unsupportive. When I have friends going through things, I really have started to say, you don't have to be okay. You can be whatever you are with me, because I'm here for you. That's the support people need, not that you're so strong.
Yeah, I think that it's important to talk about the support. People say, because it makes them uncomfortable. Everybody's a mirror for everybody else. So if you're uncomfortable with the topic, or if you're uncomfortable with emotion, you say things to help yourself feel better to the other person. I just remember thinking, oh my God, people are so stupid. Why would you say that to me? And then I remembered myself, because I'm a coach, when I really wanted to say, shut up and go away from me right now. That was the dumbest thing that could have come out of your mouth. Are you stupid? That's what I wanted to say. But I went, oh, thank you. Then I would curse at them in private. There's nothing to say. That's what I say now. There are no words. Because what we try to do as human is we try to create a construct via words that will make myself feel better through you. And that's not going to happen when somebody's grieving. I can't tell you that I say the right thing. I could just tell you that words aren't going to do anything for you right now. And all I want you to know is that I'm here and I love you. I will feed you. I will hug you, and you don't have to ask for it. And if I'm making you uncomfortable, you can yell at me. I used to be that person that said the dumb things until it happened to me. And I went, oh my God, I've been that dumb person for 35 years. People would send me just a card a month. Jen, thinking about you, love you. That was it. And those things were the greatest things. No words. No, you can't fix what's happening. Just thinking about you and I love you. I didn't realize how important that was until I was going through it. Hopefully I am able to be that for somebody in the future. Hopefully I have been, since this has happened, since I've had the wherewithal that I was doing it wrong for a long time. Now I kind of have a better idea of how to be a support. A little bit goes a long way. Don't try to use the words. And if you are uncomfortable, stay away from that person. Really, you're not making anything better. Your presence is not helping if you can't be there with them where they are right then and there. Until you can get good with yourself, don't put yourself in the presence of that grieving person.
I would even take that a step further. I think it is very uncomfortable, and everyone's uncomfortable. Who cares? Be uncomfortable together. I had a friend who had a son that she lost, and he was an adult, but I sat with her and I said, I don't know what to say for you. I don't know what I can do for you, but I'm right here. And I'm just going to sit here. You tell me if you need me to do anything. There was nothing to be said, like you said. What are you going to say? Nothing. There's nothing you can say that's going to fix it. And she even said to me, people are avoiding me. And I was like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. Who cares? Yeah, I want to fix it with words. I'm a human. That's where we go, is we always want to fix it with words. And when we can't, we're uncomfortable. So what? Be uncomfortable together.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I was the avoider. I didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't understand. I had never lost anything. Old people die. So my grandparents were passed and it was okay. They were my grandparents. I didn't have a frame of reference for what real, true depths of grief looked like. And I was great at avoiding. Thankful that I have a different perspective now. I'm not thankful of why I have the perspective. It's very nuanced. And I think it's very easy to judge ourselves and others when in fact we don't really truly understand all of it. And so remove judgment, just like what you said, Nicole, just let it be what it is in that moment, because what else is there? We should talk about the stages of grief.
I do want to say one thing. 20 years ago, I couldn't sit with somebody in their pain. I remember saying to a neighbor, we were writing a card to somebody who had lost a parent. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you guys when I lose people because I don't want others to have to suffer through writing these cards. I mean, what a shit thing to say. I was a total turd. But I learned compassion as I got older. I learned that you have to just be okay with the pain of sitting with people.
Yeah.
Okay, stages of grief. Stage number 1, prefacing this with, it's always been made very clear, we don't go through 1 and then you're all done with 1 and then you go to 2 and you're all done with 2. And you go back and forth and you can be feeling all the things and you can be feeling one of the things and you can be feeling 2 of the things. I want to be really clear with that. Even though I'm going to do them by numbers because it's a little easier to keep track of them, that's not how this works. Although my controlling self, and I suspect you would love it to just be a checklist. Done. Check.
It would
okay.
be great. That'd
all
be
good.
nice.
You can't even go, okay, so denial. I'm 100% through denial. No, I'm not, because it could show up in 6 months. You don't know. So step number 1, denial.
I guess maybe we should talk about how it showed up for us.
Yeah.
So denial, I think that's pretty straightforward. No, this isn't happening. This isn't my life. That was me the night of. This can't be happening. This, nope, for days and days. This is a bad dream. This isn't real. Nope, that was me for just a few days. Was denial for you longer, shorter, at all?
Denial was interesting because I didn't really notice it at all because I was living in Hawaii when I was told. But timeline was we were all here in Arizona. My father did get to meet my granddaughter. She had just been born. She was 4 months old and they stayed 2 extra days. Tim and I went back to Hawaii. They drove home on Tuesday. Saturday, we got the call that he had passed, and it was literally that quick. Took him to the hospital, and they were doing the chest compressions in the front of the hospital, and he passed in front of the hospital. So Saturday, we get the call. I'm on a flight Sunday morning. I didn't think I was really in denial. I think where it showed up for me was as I'm walking around his house, I just kept expecting him to come around the corner. Why isn't he coming around the corner? Why isn't he here? It was just very weird. And that happened for me because we didn't live here. So we were coming back sporadically. And every time we would come back, I'd say to Tim, don't you just expect him to walk around the corner? And he's like, every time. I probably didn't get through that until about a year afterwards. Then it was, okay, I realized he's not going to come around the corner. So I think that part was a little longer just because I wasn't in the same space, probably.
I would experience for a couple of years little micro denials, which was interesting. I had my favorite color shirt of his. There was one time I was in Target 4 or 5 months later, and I turned around and I saw somebody with that Kelly green shirt on. And my heart was like, that's him. Right? The build, I just saw from behind, and I went, I turned around and it wasn't him, and I fucking collapsed. And I was like, obviously that wasn't him. But yeah, and little things like that still happens. I'll see somebody riding a moped with like that color on, and from behind, little micro denials still this far past. Like you were saying, it's not step 1 through 3. It's like they bounce around and they last a long time.
Step number 2, anger. By the way, anger can show up in a very interesting way, and I want to talk about this. I was not in Maui when the fires happened. We had moved away 2 months before to live here in Arizona. I remember one of the things that I saw, why I was so aware of this is because I wasn't in it. I was a little removed, but I was watching what was happening. And I actually know some people that perished in the fire, and it was horrible. I had someone I was kind of close to that we couldn't find for a while. It was a devastating experience. Those people went through heavy grief, and I even felt myself go through some of the grief. One of the things that I saw that anger turned to was blame. Yes. It turned to blame, and anger can so easily become blame. I think that really shows up. And I even saw that. I kind of blamed my dad in his own death.
I did the same.
Yeah. And I saw my kids going, what did the doctor do? The doctor did wrong. This is just anger showing up as blames.
That's such a great point. I did the same thing. You could have taken any road home. Why did you take that road? Why did you decide to maybe speed a little bit on your motorcycle? Why'd you come home at that time when you could have? It goes nowhere. Because anger is really a secondary emotion. If I can point to you, then I can be angry with you. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that one up.
And then this horrible feeling of now I'm blaming a person who's passed. What kind of a total dick am I? That messes with your head. Okay, so this person was your best friend and you're blaming them. You're a jerk. Oh my God, now I have the guilt and shame on top of the grief. So that's fun as well.
Okay, there's the 5 stages, but then there's all of the things that come from the 5 stages. The things that you create up here that, yes, there's 5 stages and 87 more emotions that come out of it.
Absolutely. I think you're completely right. Bargaining, how did that show up for you?
We're not particularly religious in our family, my side, the way I was raised. My mom said to me, because I was feeling a lot of guilt for things said and unsaid, done and undone. My mom said, I like to think that when someone dies, they get to know everything and it's all okay. There's this ethereal understanding somewhere that there's no judgment after that because there's no pain. So that just made me think, if I can make right here the conversations with the dead person, then maybe somehow he'll walk around the corner again. If I can figure all of those things out, all of the things that I ever did or he ever did, if we can have those conversations, that it's not real. Then somehow it must not be real. The if-then kind of thing. Oh, if I do this, then he'll come back to life somehow. It obviously doesn't make any sense. Trying to move along those, okay, well, I believe you in this, but you were wrong on this one, and I'm sorry for this, and you didn't ever know this, and I'm so sorry. And if now you get to know it, then how would you feel about me then? There's a lot of that. And I'll be a better person now because now I know this. All of those things. I won't ever do this again. A lot of that kind of, I guess I would call that bargaining. Is that even right?
You know what? Sounds right. Honestly, this is the one I have a hard time with because I don't really know how it translates or what it shows up as. I'm not sure if I'm bargaining. I don't know. I feel like I have to dive deeper into that. I always think of bargaining as, like you said, the religious bargaining. God, if I'm better, will you bring this person back to me? That kind of a thing. I knew that wasn't a reality. I don't know what the bargaining is for me. I'm not really sure how it may or may not be showing up. I used to say to my husband, Davy just lost you. If I lost you, I would be lost. But I still have you. I have my anchor still. As long as I have my anchor person, I'm going to make it through this. Versus you had to find someone to show up for you as an anchor person like your mother. That wasn't the person that you shared your house and your life and your bed with. I think for me, I didn't feel that level of the bargaining piece. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I can only tell you my experience.
Okay, what's after bargaining?
Depression.
Yeah. That's kind of like underlying for a long time.
Yeah. What I've felt is almost like a low grade depression that just doesn't let up, is what it feels like. I don't think I went into a majorly depressed state. I kind of just feel this low grade depression because my life is just different now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for me. Because of my history with mental health, with a bipolar diagnosis, I have an experience of significant depression, darkness, bed for days. I have that experience. And I didn't go back into that. Now, what's interesting is that with Elvis dying, according to all of the doctors, all of the medical journals, that should have been the thing that thrust me back into bipolar disorder. They call it a stressor, and it didn't, which was very strange to me and the doctors. Yes, deep, severe, significant sadness. Yes, there were those not getting out of bed or dragging my feet or crawling to the bathroom. Maybe only because I had the anchors, as you're calling them, around me, really not allowing me to go there as much as I wanted to. Had they not been there, I would. Maybe only because I had those people opening the shades and pulling me out of bed and literally carrying me outside. I think that that's the reason that it didn't get maybe as bad as it really could have gotten. Now, everybody doesn't have a bipolar diagnosis. I'm so thankful that it really didn't get there, because I think that had it, I really would have had a much different trajectory of moving into healing. The depths of the depression were not as deep, again, only because I had the help.
Yeah.
That really brings to light. There are some people that lose somebody, a partner, their kids don't live near, they don't have neighbors or community. I do not know at that point. And it's not even like you can ask for help, because you don't feel like talking. You don't even want to be like, hi, person that I'm not really close with, I might not make it today. I guess I'm pointing out that I really do feel so blessed that I had such an amazing community around me helping me move through this. And I'm saying making the phone calls to cancel things. For me particularly, we were 28 days before a wedding. We had a $30,000 wedding paid for.
Yeah.
Paid for. I had a wedding dress that I've never put on. I had friends that stepped up and said, oh man, these are going to be tough phone calls. Let me make them for you. Knowing that that did so much for me, I've since been able to be that person for other people. And it's a little thing that you don't recognize at the time. That was so major. Thank you. My friends were able to recoup about 20 of the $30,000. Our honeymoon was paid for. They made these calls, and that helped me because I couldn't work anymore. There is no life stoppage here. There were bills to pay, and I wasn't going to be working for an unforetold future. So getting that money back was very helpful in the situations of getting things done that needed to get done without thrusting you into a different kind of trouble. Again, build community. I mean, if only for when something awful happens. It's so weird to say, but it is so necessary. The one phone call I did make, it was to like DirecTV or something like that. I shouldn't have been on the phone. It was very bureaucratic. A lot of these companies, I was trying to cancel our DirecTV because he was an NFL Sunday guy. He had his whole man cave at our house, and I was just trying to cancel it. And I was living at my dad's, and they said, well, we can't cancel it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't cancel it? Well, you have a contract. And I'm like, he's dead. He died. He's dead. What would you have me do here? Well, we could transfer it. And just the lack of human on the other side at the point of time that I was in was more than I could take. And I said things to this person I apologize that it was wrong. So wrong, Nicole. I wish death on his family. Like, I hope your family fucking dies so you have to go through shit like this and talk to some stupid motherfucker who doesn't even. Somebody took the phone. Thank God for those people helping, because that, man, and I will think about that forever. That conversation will live rent free in my head forever. And I just feel so awful about that. But in that moment, I was clearly not my best self. I also would like people to know that it is studied scientifically that when you are grieving, when you have significant loss, you are automatically 33% less in cognition. You are not functioning at 100% in making decisions, in understanding. I didn't understand what the doctor was trying to tell me, trying to make sense of funeral arrangements. You're not yourself. You're making poor decisions because you are so low. That's important to understand too. You're not all there. Automatically, when that hits your system, you are down a third. You shouldn't be making decisions moving forward from there.
There's a part of you that just has to let the anger out. And if that's the person who doesn't let you cancel DirecTV, then that's who's going to get your anger at the time. There's no, oh, let me pick and choose. Hold on, let's see if my anger can go somewhere else right now. Because no, it's going to go to you. There's just so many things that has to be taken care of. We tried to handle as much as we could in the beginning so that David didn't have to take care of anything, because he was going through what he was going through. I just needed him to sleep and survive, really. Yeah, that's what you got to do.
That's the thing,
Keep yourself alive.
You're like, why? Why am I eating? Yeah. What's it matter? Yeah, I had people shoving vitamin. Here's a smoothie. Like, people were delivering food to me, and I'd be like, I can't. What's the point? That's probably low-level depression right there.
Yeah, I would say that probably is low-level depression for sure. I definitely feel like I'm coming out of that piece, though. The last one, I'm 100% here. Acceptance. Those are the lies we tell ourselves. I'm not 100% there by any means, but I want to be.
To a certain degree, I would say that my acceptance is, okay, he's gone. He's not the person in that green shirt. And still, years outside of 2017, I went, would it be really strange if it was Elvis? He just went somewhere and he disappeared, and he showed up one day and was like, hey. It's very strange things like that. So I don't know what full acceptance looked like. I can tell you, yes, he's passed. I have his ashes. I mean, I assume they're his. So I can say that, all right, we've been through all of that. But every once in a while, I hear a video of a laugh, and it's surreal type of thing.
Jen, what if acceptance is just realizing that every one of these pieces is always going to slightly show up in our lives for the rest of them?
Yeah. And if you want to define it like that, I am so with you, because I 100% believe that you don't move past this type of thing. You don't. And the big G's and the little G's, right? Because missing touch, smell is so significant in memories. Those things, they're going to be there. Maybe things like, what do we grieve? We were talking about grieving aging. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't hold on to that for so long. Maybe we come to a form of acceptance of, well, this is what my body looks like now. This is what my body feels like now. I was mentioning to you that I'm low level grieving my children aging. I don't have my babies anymore. My 3-year-old acts like he's my 5-year-old, and like, where's my little boys? As I'm folding up the 2T clothes because we're moving into 3Ts, I'm just like, this is never gonna happen again, right? Divorce is a big one. Is essentially the death of a relationship, which is significant, dependent upon a variety of things. Are children involved? Finances, business, just life and livelihood. That's a significant loss. Although sometimes I hear people go, yay, I'm divorced. But I'm sure it wasn't always that. That might be the acceptance portion of it. There's so many different versions of grief. You can grieve retiring. I had a 30-year career and now I have nothing to do. There are so many forms of grief, but also nobody gets to tell you how significant that is to you. Also, I would encourage you not to judge yourself for your response to that type of grief, because it's so easy for us, like both of us, Nicole. I'm not that person. I won't go through it because I'm stronger, because I'm in more control. to not judge all of what is coming up and to allow it to be. I went back to work too soon. I was full-time in real estate back then, and I went into an open house, and people had convinced me, because I was an achiever, oh, maybe if you go back to work and distract yourself, like you can distract yourself, like this heavy fog that just sits on you. So I went back to work 3 months in, and I walked into an open house, and open houses are fun. I walk in, and I shit you not, the song that had just turned over was the song that was to be our first dance. Elvis Presley. Can't help falling in love. My heart went up, and I'm like, don't collapse on these stairs. I turned right back around. I went to my car. I drove my ass home, and I went to bed all day. And it would have been okay had I cried. The agents saw me, and they knew. Everybody knew. That's hard too. Everybody knew when you're getting everybody's sympathy, and you're like, yeah, it was too soon. Too soon. So don't do that to yourself too. Allow some space.
Yeah, that is such a good point. I want to bring up the fact that even though I call it big G and little g, for someone out there who's listening, retirement could be your big G. There's no boxes with this. What gives you the big grief that you're feeling? It just feels big to you, and that makes it a big G. It doesn't have to be death. It could be anything that just feels big to you. You are the only person that can know what's your bigs and your little Gs.
Yeah, I like that, because as we've been saying, there is no comparison in grief. Nobody gets to tell you how heavy or not heavy it is. That's important. It's interesting that we're having this conversation. I was just talking to my best friend, and her daughter is 9. They're horse people, they're animal, dog people. She owns a company, works with dogs. They're very animal driven. And my friend was telling me, you know how my mom and dad handled death with us, our beloved family dog. They didn't want to deal with it because they didn't want the kids to be sad. It was like this lovely story about how the dog is just a happier place. No death, no anything died. We can't give that to the kids. She was recalling that because of that, she was ill prepared as an adult to take on significant grief. Even her own animals passing, she was ill prepared because her parents just glossed over and made everything so rosy that they didn't want the kids to feel. She told me that story, and I went, oh, because I get it. You don't want your kids to hurt. You don't want your kids to feel pain. You don't want them to be scared. And I also have made a promise that I won't ever lie to my children. And an age appropriate thing, we talk about our fruit expiring. Oh, the fruit went bad. It died. That's kind of how I started talking about grief with my kids. It's just the idea that everything has a time.
We actually have a picture of pop up on the fireplace mantle, and Quinn, she's a little over 2.5, and she will sometimes will say pop-ups in heaven. We're not religious people, but it's easier. Can we call him? Then I'm like, oh God, don't get Gigi going. And we can't call him, we can never talk to him, and he can never come back. So she understands he's in a different place. So she's 2. That's about what we can explain to her, so she understands. I think you do have to talk to your kids at some level. When we were just on vacation, my husband got a call that one of our longtime family friends, like 20 years we've known him, longtime friend, passed. And he was in his 50s. My husband said, we were with other friends who knew him. And he goes, do I tell everyone? I said, yes, you tell everyone. That's not your right to not tell everyone. Just because they're having fun and we're on vacation, you don't avoid having a conversation about something painful. They're adults. They'll decide how they want to deal with it at this moment. And so he did. I'm 10 years older than you. My husband is 14 years older than me. Our circle, this is going to start happening, and we have to learn to feel it and move on.
It's made me softer. I, for most of my life, was very hard. That controlling, that I've got it figured out, don't mess with me. And it's made me softer, which is something I know for sure I needed. And it's also made me aware differently of people and emotion and what might be hiding beneath the surface. It's been a very interesting transition. I remember distinctly, it wasn't a year after he passed. I was with a friend. We were out at a restaurant eating, and we were outside, and I hear a shriek, a scream from the parking lot, like a distinct, awful sound. And immediately I was like, somebody just died. And I got up and I ran out to this woman who had just collapsed in the parking lot, and she was shaking and she couldn't move and she couldn't find her car. And I picked her up and I said, "Where do you need to go?" "We're staying at this condo." I go, "Wait, tell me where, who do I need to call? Give me your phone." Right then and there, I left my friend. I was like, "I'll be back. I don't know when." And just knew. And she's telling me as I'm navigating to find the condo that she's with her wife on vacation, just got a phone call that her 24-year-old daughter was in a car accident and died. And that was that shriek. That was that shrill. That's what I didn't do out loud in the hospital when Elvis died. I knew that sound. And she couldn't have gotten home. I just knew, I got to get you somewhere. I guess my point is the awareness that exists outside of yourself. It makes you a whole person. And it's an awful way to get you there. It's really a shitty way to get you there.
Very true.
I think that it's allowed me to know better. And then also in the not lying to my kids, as my mom said this, "I'll be here forever. I'm always going to be here for you." I won't say that to my kid because I'm not trying to set them up. We talk about things. My stepson's mother passed. He was 8. I was 8 months pregnant with my 3-year-old. When we found out, the nurse used this phrase: "She expired on like fucking milk." And it was not a good relationship between my kid's dad and her. But just the idea that that's life. She expired. She's gone. I went,
Yikes.
Wow, that's some perspective, huh? It's heavy. And then because as we've talked about it, his mom died. "Oh, your mom's dead." And he goes, "Stop." Like, he's dealing with it. He doesn't know what to do. But my kids don't know that it's a thing because they haven't processed the idea that I know things die, but I can't connect the emotion yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are interesting conversations in our house.
Crazy. One thing I want to point out, the workbook I've been working with is the Coping with Loss workbook by Cassie Jewell, and it's been awesome. Let's talk about our takeaways. Jen, I'd actually like to start, if that's okay.
Do it.
Okay. My takeaway is just simply to say thank you to you, because I have never heard your story completely, and I think you are brave and beautiful for sharing that.
We could spend hours on my story.
Yes.
The memories that exist from, but thank you. I am the person I am today in front of you because of all of what he has contributed to my life during his life and after. So I appreciate that from you. Thank you. 2 takeaways. We're so the same person. I was going to say, I'm thankful to your dad because you're an amazing woman, and the relationship that you had with him obviously made you the incredible person sitting in front of us. I love quotes and I'm awful at repeating them. I think of Winnie the Pooh. It's like how lucky we are to have had something so wonderful to make saying goodbye so hard. And then just an in general statement. This fucking sucks. Grief in all forms. And when you make it through, congratulations on your stories to tell. That's all. It's a part of life that we will all go through, and it's a part of life that none of us want to experience. The juxtaposition and the duality that exist here it's a doozy, huh?
Isn't it though?
That makes the time we do have really good.
It's true. My father and I always hugged each other. We always said we loved each other. We always told each other how we felt, because if we couldn't get back together again, we knew how we felt. There was no question. None. And my whole family is like that. And I always want it to be like that.
Yes.
Be honest with the people you care about, because life is fleeting.
Yeah. So much so.
Should we do our questions?
Do you want your question first?
Sure. Give it to me.
I like this question today.
Oh boy.
Okay. What's one problem you have that might be entirely unique to you?
My gosh. Okay, well, first of all, I don't even know what the word would be. Egotistical enough to believe that there's any problem that I have that is fully and completely unique to me. That just doesn't exist with living on a planet with how many billions of people, 1.4 billion or something. No, somebody has got every problem I have. I will say something that's unique for me. I'm sure there's somebody else that has this experience too. And you said problem or challenge?
Said problem.
You said problem. Okay.
Go with challenge, because
Let's
problem
go with challenge.
is definitely subjective.
So one of my challenges is that I live on the property with my son, soon to be daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, and my bonus granddaughter. So we're all in this space together. One of the challenges of that is that we love each other and yet we live very close to each other. And that can create some interesting scenarios. I think that's probably the challenge that's most unique, I would say, with the people I know. I don't know many people that live in this type of environment. We're also very independent people, so it kind of creates some different dynamics with the family. My poor future daughter-in-law, she's like, wait, your parents are going to live here? What the heck? Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
All right. My question for you, Jen, is what are you reading right now that isn't part of a class or a requirement at work and is not the 4 agreements?
Right now, next to my bedstand is 2 books. The one on top is the one I just put down. It's Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pelz. She specifically is a doctor that works with perimenopausal and menopausal women in an intermittent fast and how working with your hormones, working through your cycle, and the way to fast around it can actually increase your health. And so I'm very fascinated in that. I have attempted intermittent fasting just on my own because all studies have been done on men. So we're just recently learning that it's necessary to work with the hormonal cycle throughout any given month in order to make this fasting actually do what it's intended and what it scientifically does to your body. That book I am fascinated by because she really digs into how and why you do what you do when you do it so that it increases your health and livelihood. So that's on top right now.
I like it.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Woo!
Well, that was a heavy
Now we
one.
gotta go about our day. I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. I have spoken to my story in much more detail, by the way, on stage. So I have told this story since 2017, and it doesn't get easier, which is why I say we don't get over it. You're going to have a story of losing your father for the rest of your life. It's interesting the way we find ourselves telling the stories, the things that we recall when we recall them. Will it weigh on us today? I think so. I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a fun Elvis thought today.
Nice.
Because I'm there. I'm going to talk to the black moths that come to my house because Hawaiian culture says that that's a dead relative visiting you. I have conversation with moths. He was in my house the other day.
That's so funny because I have a green beetle that visits us all the time. And I'm like, hi, Dad. And I just talked to the green beetle because my dad taught me all about nature. And he was the guy who you'd be like, what's that tree? And he can give you all the info without the Cheater app.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's pop-up.
That's what I move with now is it's more on the positive side. Maybe that's the acceptance
I love
part
that.
is I'm going to have a cool Elvis thought today.
I'm going to work on that.
Yeah.
I'm a cool dad.
Thank you for sharing this vulnerability thing. It's not easy for the two of us.
No.
So I appreciate you and your willingness to cry with me and open.
I would say exactly the same to you. I appreciate you for your willingness. I think it's good for us.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. If you're still with us, thank you. Grief is a hard road to walk and even harder to talk about sometimes. So if today's conversation stirred something in you, you're definitely not alone. Maybe you're grieving someone you lost. Maybe it's a version of yourself that no longer fits. Or maybe you're just now realizing that what you felt was grief all along. Whatever it is, it matters. There's no timeline. There are certainly no clean stages. It's just your process in your body, in your terms. And Nicole and I want you to know that this is your permission to feel all of it. Drop the shame. You can let the waves come. Ask for help or sit in silence, whatever serves you. And remember that you're still here. You get to be still healing and still whole, even in the ache. If this episode supported you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that you're not crazy, you're grieving, and that's allowed. And hey, if you're in the middle of it right now, just know that we're here with you. Until next time, keep showing up for your journey. You're actually doing better than you think.
Write your lines with passion, let your spirit freely roam. The lessons of your journey will lead you safe.